It's time for all your binge-worthy pop culture news. Welcome to Up and Adam.
Hi, guys. Welcome back and happy Thursday. All right, guys. Well, I wanted to say thank you to our very special guest, So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey, to jump on and talk about Salt Lake City today. We have some family in town, and I saw where Susie just said, "Hey, Adam, how's Pops doing?" Last time I spoke to you guys, Pops was taken out in an ambulance, and that was a few weeks ago. So that was really sad. And then this past Saturday, we went to a strip club with him. So things changed really quick. It was our first time at the strip club, kind of iconic because I've never been to a strip club, and I went with my grandfather. Go listen to the podcast. We talk about all of it on Hot Messy Pod. Now, with that, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead, smash that like button. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. Let's welcome Ryan. Hello.
Wow. The ups and downs of life. One day you're feeling bad, and the next day you're at a strip club. That's really amazing. And by the way, very Real Housewives of Salt Lake with the amount of boobies we saw at the end of this week's episode.
Yeah, I felt like it was on brand, right?
I think it was a little bit more than on brand. I mean, when there was a different relationship between Jen Shah and Heather Gay. Like, Heather Gay seemed to be wanting to press her boobs into Jen Shah's. They're both massive boobs into each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like Carrot Top with boobs. Like, she was like, let's press against the glass now. Let's press it. It was wild, that last little section.
It kind of gave me OC vibes where they were all running around naked except for Vicky, and Vicky was like sitting there judging them.
The only thing we didn't get is a Tamra Barney running away of like, "You'll never see me forever." Yeah.
Well, kind of, because Heather Gay's like, what did she say? This is the last you'll hear from Heather, or something.
Well, that
like
was the end of last week's episode of like, you just lost to Heather Gay.
Yeah.
And then at the dinner this week, we had the Whitney confrontation, where I thought Whitney spoke so beautifully and clearly. It's just that she has a tiny voice. But I mean, listen, I got to say, I am fully on Team Whitney. Like, Heather is not having an amazing season. Like, it's all starting to crack.
You know what? It also,
hey,
this comparison reminds me too of Chris Bassett not having an amazing season on Potomac because Michael Darby is no longer in the mix.
Only one bald guy can have a bad season at a time.
Exactly. And we know, like, it was like when Erica Jane said on the reunion floor, she's like, "This is my season where everybody shit on me. And guess what? You'll have your season. You'll have your season." And it's like, well, if they stick around long enough, maybe you're right, Erica. Maybe. But what did you, I want to ask you and kick it off this way. Guys, everybody in the live chat, rate this episode 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. How did you feel about it? Ryan, we're going to start with you.
I got to say a 6. It's such a tough balancing act, and trigger warning, I'm going to say something that was talked about in the episode that it's really hard in the morning to talk about it anyways, or at any time, but also because we just lost a really great artist yesterday, Stephen Twitch, who executive produced the Ellen Show and was a DJ. When Jen brings up the trying to take her own life section, it really throws off. It throws off not the vibe of it, but it's just very disjointed then, because you go from that to like fights and boobies and all of this stuff. And I'm sitting here just still thinking about that 2.5 days she said she was in the hospital, and I don't know, it's hard when reality becomes real and you're like, oh, maybe I don't think you should be doing the show this season. I didn't think she should be doing the show regardless, but if that really was the situation, and I don't think anybody would lie about that, I don't think production should have let her be on. I think it just gets to a point where that's too much, and it was weaponized in an argument instead of actually her coming to people to like. It was just really hard. It was hard. I have people in my life that have tried that, and I have had it becomes. It just kind of takes the wind out of all sails because you realize how fragile life is, and especially after yesterday. So, but if you took that scene out, there were some of the amazing scenes, like the Whitney Heather thing. I thought was this amazing argument where it was like even Jen was agreeing with Whitney at times. because that's what Heather does, was just like distract, will not bully, but will overtalk you. And I don't know. I really felt for Whitney, and I feel for Whitney this season. But also, just tell us who gave her the black eye already. That's it.
You're like, get to the point. No, obviously, we know that the next morning they're all like recovering. They're like, shit, we were wasted yesterday. All right. And I thought it was funny where Lisa stated, like, my workout this morning was running my mouth last night. And they start having the conversation about how sometimes they feel like they get treated like garbage by Jen, and that they have these ups and downs with Jen Shah. But I always try to, and Emily always tells me this too. She's like, sometimes with these interviews with like Mary Cosby's parents or Jen or something, she's like, you try to humanize situations and like kind of understand, but I really do. And I try to see where someone's coming from. Just like you said, maybe Jen shouldn't have been filming this season. I look at it as maybe that was like the great distraction, since one kid is going to medical school. The other one is like heavily involved in high school football, and that's his life. Coach is like never home because he has a huge career. And I'm thinking like, well, maybe this was good for her as like a distraction. But then when you have the very real conversation of potentially going that route, it breaks your heart, because this is, I mean.
Well, I mean, it's real. I mean, it's the reality of her situation is that I'm sure there's going to be ups and downs. Unfortunately, I don't feel, or at least on the show, and remember the show is just a fraction of their actual lives and there's performance to it. But, it doesn't seem to be making her any of a better person or a more introspective person on her own. She's still kind of scratching and clawing and blaming everybody else. And we see it in fights. We see it. I don't know. It's just weird. It's like there's a different set of rules for Jen Shah. And somebody in your comments just said a second ago, and I agree, was that Heather wouldn't pull the kind of shit she pulls with Whitney to Jen. If Heather treated Jen Shah like she does Whitney, Jen Shah would be the one that gave her the black eye. Like, there are people, I just feel like the power dynamic is Whitney speaks with a tiny voice and she's considered a certain type of way. So Heather feels comfortable in saying like, hey, fine, take a break for me. Take a break. I don't care. And I think
she can steamroll her.
She genuinely doesn't care. And she but for some reason, that Jen relationship, I mean, honestly, I would even think at a certain point Jen would admit it is toxic as hell.
But she admitted it.
Oh, no. I mean, it feels like I compared it to like NXIVM or like a cult. I'm like, the cult of Jen Shah is so bizarre because I feel like, what does she have on these women? Like Meredith Marks is just like, well, it's what it is. I'm like, wow, you have very strong opinions about everybody else, but Jen Shah is kind of like, well, it's gone through a rough time. I'm like, was she going through a rough time 2 seasons ago? Because she's had the same behavior for 3 seasons in a row now. Even taking away the prison stuff.
This might be unpopular opinion, but I'm gonna give you something to like pick your brain for a second.
Yeah.
This is why I love these conversations, because it's wild, because it's, I said to Jason about
this.
Well,
you know her personally a little bit too. So there's a different,
yeah. Well, and I'm like sitting here watching, for example, I'm watching like the Harry and Meghan documentary and I'm like, wow, what happened? And then Bethany Frankel comes out and says, this was a cash grab. I know this from a business perspective. And I'm like, oh shit, we just got duped. The fuck happened over here? Like you think about it and it's always like playing devil's advocate. But for Jen, you see this and you're like, what does she have over these ladies? That's your question. And it's like, because if you're going to have these explosive moments, like why even entertain a friendship like that? But then you could see how charismatic, especially at BravoCon, and how much of a good time and how fun she is. And when I did the interview, when Jason and I went to go meet her in Salt Lake City, and we went out with her and we just saw her like not with cameras around, we didn't have one negative conversation. It was just
So maybe the cameras bring out the worst in her and she needs to like stop. And by the way, she's going to be forced to stop the cameras here in a little bit. And maybe that's going to change her. I had a person on the podcast last week that went to Danbury prison for 2 years, and she walked us through what Jen might go through. And there was no, like, there was funny moments to that conversation, but it was also very serious. But also Jen Shah really, and Jen Shah could thrive in prison. Like, there is ways where what she'll have to go through, she's gonna, I mean, with all that kind of charm and likability, she could do very well. But if she acts like she does on the show, where she just pops off at anybody anywhere, that's the kind of behavior that's not going to suit her well when she has to go to prison. But like, it was a fascinating conversation. But yeah, I mean, I think the camera might bring out the worst in everybody sometimes.
I think so too, because I remember having certain conversations with Jax working at Sir, where Jax, like, I could sit there and I actually did not mind talking to him. I thought it was like, I mean, he was always very into himself, and like that you need to be a little narcissistic to be on a reality show. Andy Cohen said that. That's not, it didn't come from me, right? And, you know, then I would see when the cameras were on and dude became a monster. It was like, cameras are on. This is what you, same thing with Lisa Rinna. She's like,
yeah, that's okay. It's the people that think they're giving a performance. And then they kind of like, you know, if you give a performance, then be in a movie or audition for TV shows. Like, I don't like when people self-produce, because especially this season with Beverly Hills, you saw with Lisa Rinna, there was something so grating about her performance where it was like, there's not, like, even as a soap opera actor, you're like doing too much. And you're like, the audience can feel it. The audience can feel when it's like, chill out. And I kept wondering if Jen isn't back next season, which I don't think she will be unless they try to film one really quickly. What's the dynamic going to be like? You know, because there will not be a Jen Shah. Like, what will that dynamic be like? Is she the top of the triangle? And then when she's gone, does the show completely fall apart? Or does the show find its actual legs? Because I feel at this point, it's dead weight that's causing everybody to be so wild and weird. And that's why I always compare this one to like Beverly Hills. Is like Salt Lake is Alice in Wonderland, where it truly is bizarre. It's like, wait, what's going on? Like, who's mad at who? I thought they should be mad. Like, who's not forgiving who's mad at who's like, all of a sudden boobs are out. None of it makes sense. But if some of it's time, it's like really, it's entertaining in the most bizarre fashion and probably painful for most viewers.
I could sit there and have like, we could go to TomTom and just do happy. Well, they don't have happy hour because they don't need to. But
why don't they have happy hour? By the way, I feel like they should have happy hour
because they don't need happy hour. Is the gimmick to get people in. They don't need happy hour.
Is that right? I'm like, it'd be a fun place for happy hour. It would be fun.
Lisa Vanderpump would never.
Sir, but by the way, Sir just started doing happy hour. Did you see that? Or Sir's been doing it for a while, right?
Oh, maybe. I mean, I didn't know that, but that just means like. Yeah. Well, then again, it's an off season too. It was always more dead when the show wasn't on. But my question that I wanted to bring up to you is the way that you're saying this is like, how will the show survive, right? And guys, we'll get into the episode of it all and kind of go weave in and out. But these are great points. How will the show survive without a Jen Shah? Heather Gay even said recently that Jen Shah is the show. But, you know, one of the things that fans...
Heather, step out of Jen Shah's ass for 1 second. My God. Jen Shah is not like... sorry, okay.
No, I was just going to say, do you remember Vanderpump Rules when we went through a mass firing? Like it was Stassi Schroeder, Jax Taylor, Brittany Cartwright, Kristen Doty, Brett Caprioni, Max Boyens. And it was like, holy shit. Wait, do we have a show? And then you're like, who's going to step into those roles of like, will we have somebody who has that same energy or that same sort of like conflict resolution? Because Jen did show us in this episode conflict resolution. Like, will we have somebody who's that polarizing and sometimes explosive? And then Lala, it seemed like all the fans wanted her to step into that Stassi role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a great question. And now I think we're going to have the best season of Vanderpump Rules ever this upcoming season.
I mean, it's really shaping up, which I hope we get the trailer this week or next. I mean, it should be coming up very soon if it launches in February. But yeah, we're going to get a great season of Vanderpump Rules. But it is weird when shows go through these changes. And by the way, when I had talked to Tom Sandoval this year on the pod, he had said like a lot of those mass firings too was because they genuinely they were going to split off into older Vanderpump and younger Vanderpump. And it was going to be the Tom show, and that was like actually a go. But then all that stuff happened, you know, that came back up to light with Stassi and Kristen. And they did so many firings that they were like, nope, we only have one show now. But they were going to go two, and that's why they had made the cast so large, was that they were hoping to spin it off with like Brett and Max going to like young Vanderpump and, you know, Tom. Anyways, I thought that was always a fascinating thing. But I think Salt Lake is, because it's not even getting the ratings this season that you would expect from all the
situation.
the situation, and they filmed the reunion on Friday, which have you had any word? Do you have any insight into, is Jen Shah going to be at the reunion? I feel like you have to have some kind of dirt here.
She's at the reunion.
She is.
Last minute. So they were trying to, and this isn't something that I don't want any phone calls, you guys. Please. I get myself.
They have your number?
I have this Lisa Rinna mouth of like, I say too much and then my phone blows up after. I swear on my mom's life, like in Mom, I love you. But I swear, like I get myself in some things sometimes and they're like, that is not what's going on. Or you shouldn't have said that. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I say? I always ride the fence. But
yeah, if you get those, wow, that's wild.
I mean, yeah, but it's okay. At the end of the day, yes, she 100% is going to be there. They were trying to offer her a one-on-one, which I thought was ridiculous anyways. And
you had already kind of done that.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I was talking to Jen about a potential another one-on-one after everything is done with like the trial and the sentencing and all of that. I was like, because before, when you're about to go into a trial, most people, like, it wasn't even an interview that should have really happened. It's something that like you save all of that for the trial because you don't know if something is you don't know me. What if you have a slip up and I have that on camera? I didn't sign an NDA with you. I didn't sign like for you to be able to check off. You went purely based off of my personality over a phone and hours of long conversations. Like that's, so you trusted me. However, I could have been one of those people who could have totally caught you off guard and just taken one soundbite and been like, boom. And that could have been used against you, which I would never. But then I was like, after the sentencing and all of that, I wanted to kind of talk to Jen, go into her home and do like one of those walk around, like where Vogue does like the 21 questions and you walk through their house or something like that. And just ask her about everything that's coming up and like how she feels. If she was going to have to do the one-on-one, I think I was pretty confident in being able to have a conversation with her where she felt safe. But I always told her since day one of finding out, since BravoCon, where we heard that she might not be going to the reunion, I was like, if you don't go to the reunion, I think it's absolute BS. And that might be unpopular opinion, but I think if they're going to show you on the show and you're going to have ups and downs with all of these ladies and they're going to be allowed to talk about you and you can't rebuke it, rebuttal, nothing. They just get to talk about you and you're not on that floor because it's bad for optics, but then yet they're going to put a 1 hour special with a one-on-one with you. I think that's BS.
I think it's BS, but at the same time, I really don't expect much from it. I'm glad I am glad she's there, but at the same time, they've proven that they don't really have fair conversations within that group of people. Yeah. So I really hope that everybody, I mean, like I said last time I was here, I was like, they need to let, I said they just need to let Mary Cosby watch the whole season and come back on and just comment.
Somebody said that earlier in the chat.
She like just needs to comment, like just comment on things that happen at the reunion, just be like, or at the season of like, Jen, you were crazy this season. I would love if Mary can just come in and give her opinion. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's just, I feel like Jen Shah is going to steamroll that thing, but that's what she does on the show. And it'll be interesting, if anything. I just feel we're going to see more of what we saw last night, which is just, it's a Heather and Jen show. Heather trying to stay popular in some kind of way. Like, you can just really tell Heather is not used to being the it girl. You can just tell. I think with, like, the power that she's gotten over the last 2 seasons, I feel it's rarefied air for her, and she doesn't have the instruction manual, so she's like, she doesn't, she now is like, she can't deal with her own power and her own, like, mini fame, and she's so used to being a sidekick to somebody that when she has to step into a lead role, she completely flounders and she doesn't know which way to go unless she's given an ultimatum like the Angie H one. Then she can be like, okay, well, this is obvious. I you gave me an ultimatum. But then the next day she goes right back into Jen Shah's asshole and tries to like kiss her ass. And I don't know. It's just a really weird show to watch, and I empathize for Jen Shah's family, but I don't think we're getting to the truth of any of it. I don't think once again, it's just like, the fact that none of these ladies are asking about the situation at all, it is very Beverly, like, it makes the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills lady looks like they grilled Erica in comparison.
Well, but then I don't know if they necessarily, because when she was filming this, she was still getting ready to go to trial. And I don't know, I'm sure she probably signed something with production and stuff when she said that she was going to film, that they can't turn the women questioning her about certain things into a storyline, or else it's more, this is more of a negative than a positive. And then I also wonder too, when you talk about going into the reunion, I'm really scared for Angie K, Dana, who they call Dana Banana. I'm
I
scared.
love that name. By the way, I do love Dana Banana, the name.
Listen, I mean, hey, it's
I
a name that's gonna stick. And I'm waiting for shady editing to be like Dana Banana, like they did with Giselle and the Snake. But I'm scared for Lisa Barlow, Whitney Rose, Angie K, and Dana Banana, because we know that Heather Gay, Meredith Marks, and Angie Harrington they're like a divided team right now. But they said this, and it makes sense. Right now, Jen's going in like, oh, you guys want to talk about me? The best thing that you get to weaponize is you're going to tweet me and say, I better get used to prison or being called a B word or this or that. That's what they're going to hit her with. It's like what they did with Teresa. They're going to be like, clink, clink, and she knows that's coming. However, if you have any skeletons in your closet that might have been like, oh, I won't use that, I'll sit on that. You know what? I'm not going to do that to you or your family. If she has that on you, Jen is going to come and bury all of you.
Okay, but there's a difference between skeletons in a closet and fucking Dahmer. Like, there's a Dahmer skeletons in Jen's closet. Like, this is bigger than, like, you did this. But I am beginning to wonder, like, it had the Heather Gay behavior I'm beginning to wonder, like, did Jen invest in Beauty Lab and Laser? Like, there is such a loyalty that it's completely off track in terms of me understanding from a human perspective, or even, like, I used to study scripts and plays all the time. It's just the character motivations don't really line up at all. Like, and especially if you judge these ladies on their behavior on the first 2 seasons, especially Meredith Marks. I mean, Lisa Barlow, I actually have turned a corner on Lisa Barlow, and I'm now actually turning into a really big Lisa Barlow fan, because she's actually handling certain things. I mean, she still has that narcissism there of like, Jen, tell me I'm your friend, please. But then she'll actually kind of be able to pinpoint what happens exactly. Like, Lisa Barlow kind of sees things for what they are. And it's just like, but then last night we saw at the dinner, she just, at one point, just, you could tell she gave up. She was like, okay.
With the Marilyn wig. Which I didn't actually realize until Whitney said it, that she really did like to channel her Marilyn Monroe. And I thought that that was the conversation where I felt like Lisa and Heather were going in to say, this is a toxic cycle, this is a toxic relationship, and they weren't expecting to kind of get that information from Jen. And
once that, it stops it in the tracks. You can't have the conversation you want to have once that. And listen, I'm not a grief counselor nor a suicide counselor or anything like that, but like, I don't know what the appropriate thing of like trying to tell somebody how they've made you feel, and then how that works after information like that is dropped. Like, obviously you just drop it, and we see Heather, I don't know, it was just used at the right time by Jen, where it really shut down that conversation. And I don't know, it's a really, really sad thing. And I'm really glad she didn't do it. And I just really wonder if production knew. And I feel like there's an irresponsibility, though, even if it's like, I just feel like that's really dangerous territory once you bring that up, because if that went through her mind so much that she went to the hospital and she had tried it, what's to say the reunion's not going to like rile her up so bad on Friday that she's not going to do the same? Those are the thoughts that go through my mind, and that's what I get scared about, because I mean, if that's happening off season because of a Shaw exposed Instagram account, like, that was mainly about Lisa Barlow, that's what scares me. Like, if that's true, then what happens on Friday could really set her off into a spiral of just a horrible holiday season, her last one here potentially, in terms of like being free. And that's the stuff that worries me, is that like, is it wise of her to do the reunion? Like, I know you think I agree with you completely. It's not fair for her to be talked about without her there. But if that's her mentality, I just get worried of like, will it go too far? Because everybody will have to be heard if Andy moderates correctly.
And that's why I like hearing different opinions, because that's not one of the circumstances that crossed my mind. And I listen, that I didn't even think about that. Just just to be fair. And
well, listen, dude, your Pops is sick, right? My mom's sick right now too. We're going into holiday season. We're going into like we're gonna have we're gonna have the best Christmas ever for Mom. We're gonna have the best Christmas ever. And I wonder, really, truly, like that mental state that we're in right now. The holidays are already tough. Imagine if you guys all had to go into a reunion with all your friends and like kick off your holiday season, one that you knew on January 5th that you were going to be sentenced to prison, or January 6th, whenever. And it would just be really, I feel like one wrong move and it can just, and we've seen that Jen is just, she's afraid, she's afraid edge anyways. Like even the first 2 seasons before any of this stuff, she acted the same way. So I just get worried if what she said is true and we have no reason not to believe her in terms of what she tried to take her own life. I just get worried about, I just hope Bravo does this the right way, which I don't know what that way is. I just hope there's people there, counselors. I don't know,
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think that makes sense. And, on a more positive note, there's one person who I have to applaud throughout this episode. And I don't think it's because she really like went above and beyond to give us like a moment or anything, but you have those housewives who try to pre-produce and be in every single moment and try to just like be there and have some content. And then you have Meredith Marks, who's like, I'm here. Ha ha ha. Like, I don't care.
She's loosened up. She's loosened up a little. Yeah.
She's like, I am me, whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, that's okay. I don't need to be here.
I get that impression more now than I have any other season, where she's like, I'm going to stay on the beach. I'm not going to go surfing. No way. Like, I like that she's more of like, you don't like it. You don't like it. She really has seemed like she's gotten to that place, which is nice. And that's why I'd be really curious. Like, I truly wonder where Salt Lake will go next season, if it can go anywhere, or if you're so entrenched. I've always said, like, no one person can, the show is the star of the show. These ladies are stars, but no lady is above the show. And that's where my problem with sometimes Bethany Frankel after the Housewives got kind of weird for me, because I was like, Bethany, the show is the star. We got to make sure these franchises work. But right now, all eyes are on kind of Jen and Heather, and I just wonder if the show can survive past whatever legacy Jen Shah has given this show for the last 3 years.
Oh, yeah. If Jen is not, it's called playing farm. It's like make believe. If Jen is not on next season, and we have Whitney, Heather, Meredith, and Lisa Barlow, they're probably gonna upgrade Angie K.
Angie H is like, please, please upgrade me, please.
And then I could see them adding in two.
Hey, hot photo of your sister. I'll like it.
Oh my God, the spam of it all. Like hot photo of my sister. Put user in timeout. Thank you. I think that they would need two really dynamic people. And also the friendship break of it all with the Heather and Whitney. I'm sitting there thinking about it in my head, and I'm like, well, Whitney, you have to. Whitney's like, she doesn't even realize that we're on a friendship break. And Heather's like, no, I didn't know that. And Jen's like, well, let me help you. This is what's going on. And did you hear what Whitney had to say? And then Whitney and Lisa are sitting there talking. Lisa's trying to defend Whitney, and Heather's like, she was the one who talked the most shit about you.
Wait, two things. Why does every scene in Salt Lake take place in water? Like, there's like, remember when we were in the pool, but remember when we were in the hot tub? But do you remember when we were on the snow? Like, everything is water-based on this show this season. And then the second thing is, like, Heather needs to stop talking about making deposits in the friendship account. Like, does Wells Fargo have friendship banking? Like, she's like, I've made huge deposits in our friendship account. I'm like, friendship accounts don't exist. Just call it friendship. Like, are you out of your mind?
My God, that and the ride or die. The ride or die.
The ride or die needs to be retired. I cannot wait when Ride or Die dies, because by the way, and guys, there's more options than just Ride or Die. There's yeah, like you're a good, like there's not just Ride or Die. There's a lot of in between there.
Yeah. There's a lot of gray area.
Our Patrick, see, I'm so over whiny Whitney. I feel like that is her voice. Like, that's unfortunately a product of your voice. Like, she has I am Whitney, I speak like this. And it is that Marilyn Monroe effect. But I'm sorry, what she was saying about Heather made tons of sense to me. But I feel it very interesting of just like, sometimes I think her voice will set people off immediately. and they're not actually listening to what she's saying. Whereas like Heather and Jen, I just from vocal like classes I've had, they have such strong, clear, like Heather has a gruff voice, Jen has a very clear bam. They're going to always sound technically better than Whitney.
Well, but then also I was paying attention to that last night where Whitney takes a little bit longer to get it out, what she's trying to say. But then when she gets it out, her points are pretty valid.
That's it, but it does take a second, and that's hard because when you're dealing the one thing you can say about Jen Shah is quick. She's quick on her feet. She will take any conversation, and Heather is the same way. But Heather's kind of more clunky about it, where Jen Shah is like a laser. But Whitney does take a second to get there. I mean, more than a second. So we're sitting there where she's trying to collect her thoughts, and also on top of that, if like she pointed out last night, she is going through, recollections of what happened to her as a child, including physical abuse, allegedly, according to Whitney. She's going through really a year of self-discovery, so she's speaking in therapy speak. Everything in her life, she's trying to like therapize, of like, okay, this relationship is toxic. This, like we just have those years of our lives when we really try to make progress on ourselves. And I feel like she's doing that. So everything is looked at through this intense lens in Whitney's eyes right now. And we know this goes into Girls Trip season 3. Like that's what's so fascinating is that at BravoCon, Whitney was like, her and Heather make up by the end of the season, but then they get into another fight going into Girls Trip, and that's where everything got destroyed.
But then it's also kind of weird too, because if you think about it, like Meredith doesn't say a whole lot, but she's very quick and you don't know what's in her vault. And that's what I really like. I'm like, oh, you wait for it. Lisa Barlow, she kind of struggles with like, she's not really going to take accountability for a whole lot. She's going to try to figure out something like it's not her. It's never really Lisa's fault. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing about Lisa. I'm just because
she wants to, yeah.
It's like, it's never really, and in some of these situations, really, she should not be held accountable. But there are moments where it's like, that's not me. That's not a me problem. That's a you problem. And it's like, oh, okay, well, all right. And then you have like, Angie K, I think, is finding her footing and finding her voice. Her confessionals are getting better and better. I think that she'll be a full-time housewife next season. I really do. I saw where the Bitch Sesh podcast came out and they talked about how Angie K allegedly was about to sue Bravo over demoting her from a full-time to a friend role or something like that. And then they were talking about terminating her contract going into the next season. We'll see.
Whoa, I didn't know that. Wow. That's amazing.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't actually. No, I mean, Angie K's good, but once again, it was one of those things of like not last night's episode, but last week's, when at that dinner table, Jen Shah goes, I know the one person who has my back is Angie K. And this is after she threw the $1,500 shoes in the ocean and the champagne. And Angie K was like, thank you. Like, I love that she was like, thank you. Like, it won her back immediately. And that's why all of these women are potentially a little off. Because you're like, wait a sec. I appreciate your apology, but you better dive into that ocean and go get those shoes, and then we'll talk about forgiveness. But until then, like, who cares if you think I'm being a loyal friend to you? It's obvious I've been. Like, also the $15,000 for coaches, like, that's like that she paid that to get on the show. Like, she wants on the show like anybody else. Who knows what really any of these ladies' true loyalties lie when you're on TV?
Well, and it's like, it's kind of weird too, because the way that some of these women have the ability to like go in, talk their crap, rake each other through like the coals, do the things that they do, and then come back and be like, I'm sorry, we're going to move forward. Like,
I carry things around. Carry things around for years. These people carry things around for like 6 to 7 hours. And then God. It's wild.
When I'm done with you, when you cross the line and you talk about anyone who's close to me, it's we're just like, it's not, I don't need to go to the extreme of you're dead to me. I'm just like, at that point, I'm like, I wish you the best. Genuinely, I do. I want nothing to do. I feel like Elsie from the Hills. I want to forgive you and I want to forget you. Yep.
Yeah. Aaron D says something. Plus, Angie K really is Jen's friend. If Jen isn't there, why would she be? Well, I mean, why would be is just because reality shows sometimes really don't highlight the real,
Yeah.
and they'll keep like what unfortunately casting has become with a lot of these shows is that there's like a thin tether of a connection, and that thin tether for Angie K is Jen Shah, but now she's introduced to the audience. It's just like Southern Hospitality is like a thin thread with Leva. Lev was in Southern Charm, so that way Southern Hospitality is the thread. But now, like, you know, if Leva all of a sudden gave over ownership, we would potentially still have a Southern Hospitality season 2 because we were introduced to these characters already. So I feel like Angie K still has a really good chance of being in the cast next year.
Well, and she's already connected with Lisa Barlow, Whitney. And the thing is like Lisa Rinna brought in Sutton. Sutton and Lisa Rinna are no longer close. Sutton attached herself to Garcelle and now Crystal and now Kathy Hilton. And so you like even the same thing with Ebony K. Williams. Ebony K. Williams was introduced to the show not knowing anybody, and they tried to make it look like she was friends with Leah. So they will figure out a way and somebody to attach you to in order to make it make sense. But if you hear Angie, she's wording herself pretty smart in the way that she's like, these are our friends. These are all our friends. And you're like, are they? She tried to get on last season.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, and Angie H as well. Like Angie H, like I've never seen some like Angie H. I just tell like when I do the recaps on my show, I tell people in the eyes, like I'm like, just look at Angie H's eyes in any episode. They look so like they're just like, let me be here, please. She's always like, what about this party I wasn't invited to? Tell me everything about it, please. And she tries to do it calmly, but her eyes, like, it's like hysterical. Angie H cracks me up, but not in the way that, you know, not in a normal way. It cracks me up because you can tell she's desperate to, like, when she got that call from Heather, like, of like, how's it going? Who's in the fight? Tell me. And she's like, oh, you could tell she was like in the backyard in a tree. Like, hey, Heather, what's going on? You know, like Angie H just, I feel, is so funny in a really weird way.
Angie H is she I'm gonna
There's
have
just
to,
it's like that's what I'm saying. It's bizarre on top of bizarre.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's not. I'm keeping my eyes up. I look at Angie H as somebody who she really wants to be a part of this group. She really wants to be on the show. Ryan, by the way, I brought this up because we have Mike from Chicago. We love Mike. I'm gonna pull a Heather and my friends next time they piss me off. Ryan, you should start saying this when you like leave and just like you're just like walking out.
You just lost a Ryan Bailey tonight. That's what I say when I leave a restaurant. Yeah. You just lost a Ryan Bailey
Find
tonight.
Yourself another Ryan Bailey. Like,
another Ryan.
You're just hanging out with the Toms and they're like, all right, man, well, we're gonna go home and like we hope you have a good night. And you're like, find yourself another Ryan Bailey because I'm out. Like,
also, I mean, Heather, by the way, for like such a supposedly a thick skin or has been made fun of a lot, like when she was younger, she really can't take the hot seat at all. Like the way she physically moves people now or like yells at the like Heather is now becoming she's doing the physical version of Meredith Marks' I'm disengaging. Like, you know, Meredith Marks used to say, I'm disengaging. Heather will physically disengage. She'll just like, I'm out of here. Fuck you. Like, she'll just explode and then walk out. And it's like, it's a more hectic. Yeah, like it's a more hectic version of Meredith Marks disengaging. But it's like, I feel like they need to be fined every time you leave a scene. Like, you'll leave a scene when we're done shooting. Until then, you sit down.
Heather goes from like, I'm trying to understand to fuck. Like, oh my god.
Well, wait. Well, the thing everybody is talking about though is the Heather gay black eye. You know, somebody earlier in the chat said it's going to be disappointing. It's going to be something. But the only thing, you guys, she had scratches on her arms too that she showed us last night in that little scene. And then when you watch back, you see that it is somebody with blonde hair, which would be Whitney, at the door. If you look into the doorway when she opens the door and says, what time is it? It's somebody with blonde hair. So I think, I don't know. Like, I feel like if they dig into a physical altercation, Whitney's not there anymore. Like, if you hit somebody on the show, you're off the show.
That's not true. They tried to bring Monique back. Portia has beat up like 3 people.
Well, it's a different time. No, I mean, like, well, I thought that was like automatic dismissal now.
I mean, I don't know. See,
Because when Craig threatened Luke on Winter House this season, like, I'm going to throw you out the goddamn window or whatever he said, they sent Luke to a hotel that night.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm curious.
Same thing on Potomac, they sent Dr. Wendy to a hotel.
Wait, do you already know who it is? I feel like you already know the situation, so.
No, but I should make a phone call after this, and I'll text
I feel like you know.
I
just if Whitney popped her in the eye, then that's like, I mean, that's something that I feel like Heather was so drunk, but the scratch marks don't add up, you know? Like, I don't know.
I think what happened is Heather was so drunk, honestly, and I think that, like, what they're saying is, as far as, like, disappointing and stuff, I think that Heather was so drunk that she was walking and she blacked out and she fell and she hit her face on a doorknob or something.
But it would be in a bush then if it was scratches, unless it was a physical person.
Unless it was...
She had scratches on her arm.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Unless it was, like, out on a balcony. If there's a balcony in her room, I don't remember that part. If it was in the bathroom and she fell and she hit her face on, like, the counter, and then the corner of the counter caught her arm and scratched it open. I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking, if it was a physical attack, I feel like...
Michael says I fought with a cousin in a drunken fight. So, like, that's more... They are cousins, so you're allowed to fight. That's legal. The other thing is, wait, in that scene too, because they were like, that was like right, like that was post like booby showing. They're like, if you watch back that little thing of Heather on the bed with Jen Shah and putting her boobs in Jen Shah, dude, is there any kind of world? And I'm not trying, like, is there, like, I think Heather's attracted to Jen Shah. Like, I'm not trying, like I think there's an actual attraction there on Heather Gay's part. I think she's attracted to Jen Shah. Like, I think, you know, but I think there's something, and I'm trying to understand the blind loyalty. And I'm like, I had this friendship in high school. I was like the third amigo of these two dudes. And one of the dudes turned out to be gay and was in love with the other friend, but I didn't know it at the time because he hadn't come out yet. And I was like, oh, that explains it now. That's why everything. And I was like, I wonder if there's any of that there, that Heather Gay actually loves Jen Shah. Like, it's like really has a crush on Jen Shah. And I'm not saying that she knows it, like, you know, but like, I was trying to think of, like, when you really love somebody, you're willing to, you almost feel like you're going to protect them from everything. You're going to take away all their pain. Like, that's how you're going to win somebody. And I think it might even be just in her deep subconscious. But when I was watching those scenes, like, Heather was straddling Jen in such a way where it looked sexual for a second. I know this is completely reaching. I know that you're going to probably make fun of me.
No, it's interesting. You have conspiracy theories. We all...
that's not a conspiracy. Conspiracy theories are when I say Heather eats babies. That's a conspiracy theory. There's a difference.
You have theories. You have theories.
Yeah.
Well... Guys, I think that we hit most of it, and we know that Ryan has a busy day, and it's still early as hell over there, but he was so nice, so bad it's good to be able to join us today, and he's about to tell us, find yourself another Ryan Bailey, because I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Before you end up going, though, let me just bring this up really quick. So next week, we're obviously looking forward to the fact that we get to figure out who the hell actually was responsible for her eye, right? We know that that's coming, but I want to bring this up really quick.
So we have probably like 4 more episodes or 5 if the reunion's being filmed. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, like I look so much better. God, pandemic weight just sucks. I've got to get a new headshot on there.
No, what do you mean? Don't sit here and
Well, no, I haven't really seen it like in this format. I've like the YouTube. Yeah, guys, the YouTube is right here. Go subscribe. We put up new videos a couple times a week. There's full recaps. By the way, I do a full Salt Lake recap of last week. That's on there now, and I do all the stupid voices, all that stuff if you like that. And I'll do this week's in a couple days. But like today's podcast is a little more serious. We have Chris Hansen on the audio podcast. Chris Hansen from To Catch a Predator, if you guys remember that NBC Dateline show. And we do talk about suicide and Twitch and all that on today's episode. But usually they're funny and silly. So give the YouTube or the podcast a chance. And if you like it, subscribe and 5 stars and all that stuff. And then I make silly memes on Instagram at So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey.
Ha. Yes, and I was over here just busy pinning this over here to the top. That way you guys can go find Ryan. So it's at So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. And guys, it's so important. Make sure you go get subscribed. Smash the like buttons. Listen to everything that he has going on because he's absolutely fucking hilarious and he puts his time into it, not just to get punched in the face like Heather Gay.
By the way, this is fun. Heather, I did a great interview about 1.5 years ago with Heather. You can find on the audio podcast. Or maybe even where that's the first time she said that she was going to have Jen Shah's back forever. And that got picked up by all like Us Weekly, Daily Mail. That was one of the first times she had said it. And I was like, you know how this sounds, right? Like this is before she had pled guilty. This is before any of that. And me and we had a great conversation because we're both divorced. We're both so we had a really good conversation. And then she followed me on Instagram and we would DM all the time. And then I think I made a Jen Shah meme and she unfollowed me. Heather Gay unfollowed me. And I was like, that's how ride or die Heather Gay is, was that she unfollowed me on Instagram because of a Jen Shah meme. So I was like, oh, that's wild, but good for you.
Well, I just want to say really quick, I feel like this is you and your one gay best friend and your other friend now finding out that there was the gay best friend. And then on top of that, I feel like you're like, hey, follow me. And then if they don't follow you, really, guys, this is going to be Ryan out.
I'm Mia at her chiropractic clinic opening with 3 people there.
Yes.
But thanks, guys. And Adam's always the best. You guys know that. But thanks for letting me be here. I appreciate it.
Ryan, we appreciate the hell out of you. And thank you so much.
Have fun, you guys.
All right. Bye. All right, guys. Make sure to go follow Ryan Bailey on YouTube, podcast, anywhere you just get your content. And then on top of that, we have a new episode of Hot Messy Podcast coming out tomorrow. We have family in town, hopefully some vlogs. We might be going to Miami tomorrow. I'm not sure. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I will keep you posted. As always, we will have community tabs, or community polls. I'm going to be posting more pre-records today, but as of right now, find yourself another Up and Adam because I'm out.